kid committing those crimes who resembled us.
Really?
Yes.
They made us laugh as TV's most lovable monster family, but off-screen, their lives were anything but a fairy tale. While the Munsters brought joy to millions, many of its stars quietly faced heartbreak, illness, and personal loss. This is the untold story of the pain behind the punchline sand, the powerful legacies these actors left behind. Born the 10th of July, 1926, died the 2nd of July, 1993, age 66. Cause of death: pancreatic cancer. Fred Gwynne gave us the unforgettable Herman Munster, a towering goofball with a heart of gold, but Fred's own life was shaped by deep sorrow. He lost his father early, spent his youth in boarding schools, and later endured the heartbreak of losing his infant son Dylan to drowning. One of his other children suffered from severe disabilities, adding emotional and financial strain. Despite these hardships, Fred built a steady acting career, shining in Pet Sematary and My Cousin Vinny. He died just 8 days before his 67th birthday from pancreatic cancer. His final wish? A quiet, unmarked grave in Maryland, far from Hollywood's noise. Behind the Frankenstein makeup was a man who knew real pain but gave joy to millions. Born the 30th of April, 1923, died the 3rd of February, 2006, age 82. Cause of death: complications from vascular surgery and amputation. Al Lewis lit up screens as Grandpa Munster, mischievous, witty, and unforgettable. Off-screen, his life was filled with contradictions. He often lied about his age, claiming to be born in 1910 to enhance his grandpa persona. In later years, Al suffered serious vascular problems. His right leg was amputated, along with several toes on the left. Still, he remained active in politics, even running for governor of New York in 1998. His final days were quiet, his legacy loud: a rebel, a comedian, a beloved television grandpa. Born the 1st of September, 1922, died the 8th of January, 2007, age 84. Cause of death: heart failure. Before becoming Lily Munster, Yvonne DiCarlo was a glamorous movie queen, but tragedy turned her world upside down. Her husband, Bob Morgan, was crushed during a film stunt and permanently disabled. She took the role of Lily Munster to support her family. The marriage collapsed under the pressure, and she spent her later years dealing with strokes and declining health. Still, Yvonne left behind a legacy of resilience, remembered as much for her strength as her beauty. Her quiet cremation matched the elegant, reserved woman she became. Born the 15th of February, 1927, died May 29, 2008, age 81. Cause of death: abdominal aortic aneurysm. Though he appeared in just one episode of The Munsters, Harvey Korman's comedic legacy is enormous. Known for The Carol Burnett Show and Mel Brooks comedies, he made millions laugh but struggled with personal storms. His first marriage ended after 24 years, and declining health later forced him to slow down. Even so, he never lost his comedic spark. He passed away after battling a painful aneurysm, but his humor lives on. Born the 13th of June, 1926, died the 10th of January, 1982, age 55. Cause of death: heart attack. Paul Lynde's voice and sharp wit made him unforgettable even in a single Munsters appearance, but fame couldn't shield him from inner demons. Closeted in an unforgiving era, Paul battled alcoholism, loneliness, and a sense of never belonging. He died alone in his Beverly Hills home at just 55. Despite personal struggles, he's remembered for his quick-witted banter on Hollywood squares and his iconic role in Bewitched. Paul Lynde made millions laugh haven as he quietly carried sorrow few ever saw. Born May 13, 1937, died the 21st of February, 2019, age 81. Cause of death, ovarian cancer. Beverly played the normal Munster with grace, but her real story is bittersweet. After just 13 episodes, she left the show to marry television producer John Stone. The marriage, hailed as romantic at the time, lasted only 10 years. She raised 2 daughters alone while silently mourning a career cut short. In later years, she earned a master's in American history and lived out of the spotlight. Diagnosed with ovarian cancer, she passed away surrounded by family. Her quiet strength, like her character's warmth, left a lasting impression. Born the 3rd of February, 1925, died the 25th of June, 2005, age 80. Cause of death, cancer. Though his appearance on the Munsters was brief, John Fiedler's soft-spoken delivery and gentle demeanor left an unmistakable impression. Best known as the voice of Piglet in Winnie the Pooh and as the timid juror in 12 Angry Men, Fiedler brought a quiet brilliance to every role. Off-screen, he led a deeply private life. He never married, lived modestly, and continued working until his final days. Fiedler passed away at a retirement home for actors, his ashes scattered in Long Island, a peaceful end to a long career devoted to understated performances that touched generations. Born the 12th of April, 1926, died the 7th of August, 2021, age 95. Cause of death, natural causes. Once a child star who lit up the silver screen in the 1930s, Jane Withers made a short appearance on the Munsters that reminded audiences of her youthful charm. Her real-life story, however, was marked by pain and perseverance. After her second husband died tragically in a plane crash, she raised 5 children on her own, of whom later succumbed to cancer. Jane herself battled arthritis that nearly left her paralyzed. Yet, she remained a beacon of strength, teaching Sunday school and continuing voiceover work for Disney even in her later years. She passed quietly in Burbank, remembered as a Hollywood survivor whose resilience matched her talent. Born May 10, 1934, died the 12th of February, 2015, age 80. Cause of death, complications from diabetes. Gary Owens may have had only a small role on the Munsters, but his unmistakable, rich baritone voice made a lasting impression. Known primarily as one of the most iconic voiceover artists in the entertainment industry, Owens had a career that spanned radio, television, and animation. With over 3,000 animated episodes to his credit, including the voice of Space Ghost and numerous Saturday morning characters, he became the voice of a generation literally. Off-screen, Owens was a workhorse and a gentle soul. He was the kind of entertainer who didn't chase the spotlight. He let his voice do the magic. His radio career was legendary, beginning in the 1950s and continuing well into the 21st century. Generations of listeners tuned in to hear his witty commentaries, warm demeanor, and impeccable timing. But even legends are not immune to life's battles. Owens lived for many years with diabetes, a condition that slowly wore him down. Despite the increasing toll on his body fatigue, complications, hospitalization, she kept working, appearing at conventions and recording sessions as long as he could. He was fiercely devoted to his wife, Arletta Lee Markell, whom he married in 1956. Their 59-year marriage was a quiet triumph in a world where celebrity unions often crumble under pressure. Gary Owens passed away peacefully in Los Angeles at the age of 80. Though his body failed him, his voice, so powerful, so familiar, remains immortal, echoing in cartoons, commercials, and memories. His legacy is one of joy, resilience, and a deep love for the art of communication. Born May 14, 1922, died the 8th of August, 1984, age 62. Cause of death, heart disease. Richard Deacon's name might not be instantly recognized by all, but his face and, especially his unmistakable voice of authority, made him a staple of classic television. Whether playing the uptight neighbor or the boss who never smiled, Deacon had a natural gift for portraying fussy, no-nonsense characters. His brief role in the Munsters added to the air of credibility the show needed to ground its absurdity. Outside the spotlight, Deacon was a reserved, intensely private man. He rarely spoke about his personal life, but after his death, it became widely acknowledged that he was yet another Hollywood figure who had lived quietly, carefully, and often alone in an era that left little room for open authenticity. Few knew that his real passion wasn't just acting, it was food. In the 1970s, Deacon as a microwave cooking enthusiast, hosting a syndicated television segment and authoring cookbooks at a time when that appliance was still a novelty. His love for cooking was not a gimmick, it was genuine, creative, and filled with warmth, a stark contrast to the cold characters he often portrayed. In 1984, Deacon died suddenly from heart disease at age 62. He left no children and no surviving partner, and his ashes were scattered at say, quiet farewell for a man who, despite being a fixture on America's television screens, always remained a mystery. His legacy, however, continues to grow in the spotlight, but always elevating it. Born the 14th of July, 1924, died the 12th of December, 2009, age 85. Cause of death: natural causes. Val Avery was the quintessential tough guy of American film and television, a face you recognized even if you didn't know his name. With a rugged, stone-chiseled countenance and a gruff demeanor, he was cast in over 100 roles throughout his career, often as detectives, mob enforcers, and grizzled blue-collar characters. His brief but memorable role on the Munsters was just one thread in a career woven through decades of gritty realism. But behind that hardened exterior was a man quietly carrying a lifetime of emotional weight. Avery, der Abrahamian to Armenian immigrant parents, understood struggle from the beginning. He turned to acting not as a means to fame, but as an escape, first from the trauma inherited from genocide survivors, and later from the constraints of typecasting that dogged him in Hollywood. Though admired by his peers, he rarely got to stretch beyond the roles of heavies and henchmen, leaving him artistically unsatisfied. Tragedy struck hardest in his personal life. The death of his only son to a heroin overdose left Avery broken in ways he rarely spoke of publicly. His wife, already battling chronic depression, slipped further into a world of emotional silence after their son's passing. Their once vibrant home, filled with the laughter of creative conversation, became a place of quiet mourning. In his final years, Avery withdrew from the industry and retreated into a modest apartment in New York's Greenwich Village. There, he lived alone, surrounded by old scripts, headshots, and yellowing reviews from off-Broadway plays. Though the world remembered him for his hard-edged roles, those closest to him saw a man of depth, loyalty, and a vulnerability he was never allowed to portray on screen. He passed away peacefully, leaving behind a legacy built not on stardom, but on quiet professionalism and emotional resilience. Born the 14th of December, 1924, died the 10th of February, 2020, age 95. Cause of death: natural causes. With her gentle wit and warm presence, Marge Redmond brought subtle grace to every role she took uneven in her brief appearance on The Munsters as Miss Haggerty. She was never a leading lady in the traditional Hollywood sense, but she carved her career by being dependable, nuanced, and deeply professional. Her most famous role came in The Flying Nun, where her Emmy-nominated portrayal of Sister Jacqueline highlighted her gift for understated comedy. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, Redmond had aspirations of stage stardom long before Hollywood came calling. She studied acting passionately and honed her craft in regional theaters before catching the attention of producers. But even as the screen roles grew, her heart remained loyal to the stage. Broadway became her artistic sanctuary, though it came with a sacrifice. Often working as a standby or understudy, she was rarely in the spotlight despite her undeniable talent. Her personal life mirrored the bittersweet tone of her career. Redmond was married to actor Jack Weston for nearly 20 years. At first, their union was a collaboration of equals-to working actors trying to make it in a ruthless business. But as years passed and ambitions diverged, the marriage quietly dissolved, leaving her without children and emotionally adrift. In her later years, she chose a life of intentional seclusion. Living in a modest apartment in Los Angeles, she remained deeply connected to the theater world, attending readings and mentoring young actors. Yet fame had long faded into the background, and Redmond seemed to prefer it that way. She found peace in solitude. Until Glee died at 95, there were no headlines, just a quiet farewell from a woman who had spent a lifetime giving depth to supporting roles. Her legacy lies in the sincerity she brought to her characters and the quiet dignity with which she lived. As Al Hanks on The Cosby Show, Joe Williams delivered a performance full of class and smooth jazz swagger. Best known for his work with Count Basie and his velvety baritone, Williams was a singer admired by peers and audiences alike. But his personal story was tinged with darkness. Behind the tuxedoed performances was a man plagued by depression and rejection. At his lowest points in the 1960s, Williams underwent electroshock therapy, a haunting reflection of how little support artists with mental health struggles received at the time. Though his comeback in the 70s reignited his career, he never fully shook the scars of his earlier breakdowns. He preferred performing in intimate lounges and hotel bars rather than big arenas, perhaps finding more comfort in smaller rooms. He died alone in a Las Vegas hotel room in 1999. The world may have moved on, but his voice-aching, rich, and soulful remains preserved in vinyl and memory. When Sammy Davis Jr. made his guest appearance on The Cosby Show, it was more than a star cameo. It was a nod to a man who had broken barriers in American entertainment, even as those same systems tried to break him. A member of the legendary Rat Pack, Sammy's charisma, talent, and tireless energy made him one of the most versatile performers of the 20th century. Yet behind the glitz was a deeply conflicted man. At 29, he lost his left eye in a near-fatal car accident and adopted a glass replacement, an outward symbol of the pain he often buried. He faced relentless racism even after achieving stardom. His romantic relationships with white women, including a brief marriage to Swedish actress May Britt, led to threats from white supremacist groups and earned him the ire of both white and black communities. And his brief association with the Church of Satan only deepened the public's confusion about his inner world. Despite his fame, Davis spiraled into addiction and financial ruin. At the time of his death from throat cancer, he owed over $5 million in unpaid taxes. Desperate to settle debts, his widow was forced to auction off most of his personal belongings, including his cherished memorabilia. In a cruel twist, Davis declined surgery that may have prolonged his life because it would have damaged his vocal cords, the very essence of his identity. Sammy Davis Jr. was a genius and a contradiction, a man who gave everything to show business and was ultimately consumed by it. His voice may be gone, but his legacy as a trailblazer and showman lives on. Dizzy Gillespie's guest role on The Cosby Show was brief but unforgettable, bringing his unmistakable trumpet sound and infectious laugh to the screen. A pioneer of bebop, Gillespie was more than a jazz legend. He was a cultural force, a musical philosopher, and a bridge between the spiritual and the sonic. Yet behind the bent trumpet and cheeky smile were years of personal chaos. Dizzy's life was filled with contradiction. She was deeply spiritual, but struggled with alcohol, a beloved mentor, but at times emotionally distant. His long marriage to Lorraine Willis endured, but not without strain, as his career often came before his relationships. When Gillespie was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 1992, he refused to slow down. Even when his hands trembled and his strength faded, he kept performing, delivering his final solos with more soul than ever. He died in Englewood, New Jersey in early 1993. Though his net worth was modest, his influence was incalculable. He mentored young musicians, opened doors for black artists, and transformed jazz into a global language. Michelle Thomas was a burst of light on The Cosby Show, playing Justine, the gentle and supportive girlfriend of Theo Huxtable. With her wide eyes, sparkling smile, and effervescent charm, Michelle quickly became a fan favorite. She later went on to portray the quirky and devoted Myra Monkhouse on Family Matters, earning a place in the hearts of sitcom lovers across America. But behind her radiant screen presence lay personal struggles and tragedy that unfolded all too quickly. Michelle grew up in a musical family. Her father, Dennis Thomas, was a founding member of Kool and the Gang Gang. She was raised in an environment that nurtured her creative talents. Yet even in her earliest roles, she faced cruel demands from network executives who insisted she lose weight despite her naturally slim build. The pressure to be physically perfect took a toll on her self-esteem, and she privately battled the emotional effects of body shaming in an unforgiving industry. Her romantic relationship with Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played Theo on The Cosby Show, was filled with affection but also marked by quiet tension and eventual heartbreak. When the two broke up, Michelle was reportedly devastated. Soon after, in 1997, she was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of abdominal cancer known as intra-abdominal desmoplastic small round cell tumor. Despite her worsening condition, Michelle chose holistic treatments over traditional medicine. Her health declined rapidly, and she passed away just 2 days before Christmas in 1998, surrounded by loved ones, including Malcolm, who remained by her side until the end. She was only 30 years old. Michelle Thomas's death was a devastating loss to the television world. Her beauty, grace, and kindness left an indelible impression, and her story serves as a poignant reminder of how even the brightest lights can burn out far too soon. Merlin Santana appeared on The Cosby Show as Stanley, Rudy Huxtable's charming young boyfriend. With his handsome features, smooth charisma, and natural comedic timing, Merlin became a teen heartthrob in the early 90s. But behind the breakout success was a young man fighting to transition from child star to respected actor in an industry that often pigeonholed actors of color. Born to Dominican parents in New York City, Merlin began acting at the age of 3 and appeared in numerous television shows and films throughout his youth. Serious roles in The Steve Harvey Show and other projects, but Hollywood's limited opportunities for Afro-Latino actors left him frustrated and often sidelined. Feeling disillusioned, Merlin became vocal about the industry's racial double standards, a move that may have cost him valuable roles. He also started spending more time in the nightlife scene, looking for meaning, connection, and perhaps a sense of control he couldn't find in his professional life. In 2002, his promising future was cut short in a senseless act of violence. After being falsely accused of misconduct by a teenage girl, Merlin was ambushed and shot in the back of the head while sitting in a car in Los Angeles. The girl and her accomplices were later convicted, but the damage had been done. Merlin was only 26 years old, a young father and a rising talent whose life was stolen by lies and hate. His death sent shockwaves through the entertainment world and left fans mourning what could have been. Merlin Santana's story remains a cautionary tale about fame, vulnerability, and the dangers of being young, black, and too visible in a world that often fails to protect its brightest. When Lena Horne appeared as herself on The Cosby Show, it wasn't just a cameo, it was a celebration of a life that changed the face of entertainment for Black women. An icon of music, film, and civil rights, Lena Horne was elegance personified, yet her life was also marked by intense pain, loneliness, and endless battles against racism and injustice. Born in Brooklyn, Lena began her career as a nightclub singer in the 1930s and quickly gained a reputation as one of the most talented vocalists of her generation. Hollywood came calling, but the opportunities were cruelly limited. She was often cast in musical interludes that could be easily cut out for Southern audiences. Major studios refused to give her leading roles and frequently criticized her appearance, claiming she was either too black or not black enough. Her personal life was no easier. She lost her father at an early age, endured a volatile marriage, and later suffered the devastating death of her son, Teddy, from kidney disease. Her interracial marriage to conductor Lenny Hayton, kept secret for years, sparked backlash from both white and black communities. Lena also struggled with clinical depression, finding solace only in her music and activism. Despite the hardships, she remained a symbol of defiance and beauty. Her rendition of Stormy Weather became a cultural touchstone, and her support of the civil rights movement marching with Dr. King and speaking out against discrimination cemented her legacy as a fearless voice for justice. Lena Horne passed away in 2010 of heart failure. She left behind a $10 million estate and a body of work that broke barriers for generations of black performers. Her life was stormy, but she faced it with strength, a voice that never stopped fighting for dignity and change. Roscoe Lee Browne's deep, eloquent voice and graceful delivery elevated every role he played, including his single appearance as Dr. Foster on The Cosby Show. With a resume that spanned theater, film, and television, Browne was one of the most respected character actors of his time. Still, he lived in the margins of fame too intellectual, too poetic, and some whispered, too private for Hollywood's comfort. Despite rumors about his sexuality, Browne never publicly addressed his personal life. He was neither married nor known to have children, choosing instead to live quietly and introspectively. He earned a Primetime Emmy and numerous stage awards, but never received the household recognition his talents deserved. Roscoe Lee Browne passed away in 2007 from stomach cancer. His life was a reminder that some artists move through the world not with noise, but with quiet brilliance and unshakable integrity. Elaine Stritch's one-time role on The Cosby Show as the blunt and no-nonsense Mrs. McGee was a perfect reflection of her real-life persona. A powerhouse on Broadway, Stritch was sharp-tongued, fearless, and often emotionally raw in her performances. Her life, however, was marked by heartbreak and struggle. After the death of her husband, actor John Bay, in 1982, Stritch never remarried and battled loneliness for the rest of her life. She was a recovering alcoholic who spoke candidly about her decades-long struggle with addiction, often using it as material for her stage monologues. In her later years, she lived at the storied Carlyle Hotel in Manhattan, where she hosted cabarets and interviews with disarming honesty. Despite her failing health and a long battle with diabetes, she performed into her late 80s, determined to leave the stage only when her voice gave out. And when it did, the theater world dimmed its lights in her honor. Lou Myers had a small role on The Cosby Show, but he would go on to shine in his portrayal of Mr. Gaines on A Different World. Known for his distinctive voice and animated performances, Myers brought humor and humanity to every character he played. Yet off-screen, his life was less steady. A failed marriage and personal demons, including alcoholism, often led to volatile outbursts and erratic behavior that made working with him difficult at times. He had a deep love for the theater, but struggled to maintain stability in his personal relationships and finances. As health problems mounted in his later years, including heart failure and pneumonia, Myers faded from the spotlight. He died in 2013, relatively unknown to a new generation, but forever cherished by fans who remembered his booming laugh and larger-than-life stage presence. Moses Gunn's commanding performance as Dr. Lotus on The Cosby Show was brief, but powerful, much like the man himself. A veteran of the stage and screen, Gunn was known for his Shakespearean gravitas and deep, expressive voice, but his journey began in hardship. Born into extreme poverty in St. Louis, Gunn experienced homelessness and hunger as a child. He worked tirelessly to educate himself, eventually earning a master's degree and becoming a founding member of the Negro Ensemble Company. Despite his achievements, Gunn remained largely outside the Hollywood elite, often cast in supporting roles while lesser talents took the spotlight. His private life was intense, marked by spiritual searching and passionate advocacy for Black artists. He died from complications of asthma in 1993, mourned by the theater community, but barely remembered by mainstream audiences. He mentored, and the roles he brought to life with unmatched dignity. Lynn Thigpen's appearance on The Cosby Show as Mrs. Hudson was a small role in a brilliant career. Best known for playing the chief on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. Thigpen was a versatile actress with a powerful voice and a quiet grace. A proud and principled performer, she often turned down roles that felt stereotypical or diminished the Black experience choices that limited her career opportunities but solidified her integrity. Her work in theater, film, and television earned her critical praise, but she was never one to chase the spotlight. Lynn never married and lived alone, valuing independence and focus. In 2003, she died suddenly from a cerebral hemorrhage, shocking friends and fans alike. She was just 54. Though her passing was quiet, her influence resonates in classrooms, theaters, and television sets across generations. Clarice Taylor joined The Cosby Show at the age of 68, stepping into the role of Anna Huxtable the Wise, soft-spoken and dignified matriarch who anchored the family with warmth and old-school values. With her deep, resonant voice and commanding yet maternal presence, Clarice brought a timeless grace to the series, earning an Emmy nomination in 1986 for her work. But off-screen, her life was far more complex than the comfort she projected on television. Clarice's journey to success was anything but easy. Born in the early 20th century, she entered show business at a time when Black women were offered little more than stereotypical roles if they were cast at all. To support herself, Clarice spent years working at the U.S. Postal Service while performing in small theater productions and off-Broadway plays. She was a founding member of the Negro Ensemble Company, an institution that helped launch the careers of many Black actors, yet she herself often faced rejection, ageism, and racism in mainstream Hollywood. Though her role on The Cosby Show elevated her visibility, Clarice struggled with depression and long-standing insomnia that often left her emotionally exhausted. She had adopted 2 sons in her youth, but later, legal disputes over inheritance and property strained those relationships. Crew members sometimes described her as difficult and intense traits, perhaps born of a lifetime of fighting to be seen and heard in an industry that rarely welcomed her. As she grew older, Taylor withdrew from public life. She lived in relative solitude in Englewood, New Jersey, until her death in 2011. Though her final years were quiet, her legacy remains enduring. Clarice Taylor helped pave the way for generations of older Black actresses, proving that elegance, strength, and complexity could coexist on-screen even if her real life was filled with battles few ever knew. Earl Hyman brought wisdom and nobility to the role of Russell Huxtable, Cliff's loving and dignified father. A man of refined charm and gentle authority, Hyman became a favorite among fans for his heartfelt scenes that showed the value of generational respect and family traditions. But while he played the ideal patriarch on television, Earl was harboring a personal truth that he kept hidden for most of his life. A gifted Shakespearean actor, Hyman trained in London and performed in some of the most respected theaters in Europe and the US. He was a rare Black actor who commanded classical roles typically reserved for white performers, earning accolades for his performances in Othello, Hamlet, and King Lear. But beyond the stage, Earl led a private life that very few people truly understood. For over 50 years, he lived with his partner, a fellow actor named Ralph Cohn. In an era when being openly gay could destroy a career, especially for a Black man, Earl never publicly acknowledged their relationship. Instead, the two shared a quiet, steadfast companionship away from the public eye. After his death in 2017, heartfelt letters and photographs revealed the tender and enduring nature of their bond, a story of love hidden in the shadows of a judgmental world. Despite the secrecy, Earl Hyman lived with dignity and purpose. He even lent his deep, authoritative voice to the animated character Panthro in Thundercats, endearing him to a younger generation. His passing at 91 was peaceful, but the quiet pain of a life partially lived in hiding still echoes through his story. Today, his legacy is not just one of artistic brilliance, but also of quiet resilience and bittersweet love. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s portrayal of Trey Styles wasn't just a breakout, it was a revelation. With his raw emotional depth and quiet intensity, Gooding became the soulful core of Boys and the Hood. The role put him on the map, but Jerry Maguire sent him into the stratosphere. His "show me the money" moment won him an Oscar and etched him into pop culture forever. But the highs came with heartbreaking lows. After years of red carpet success, Gooding's personal life began to unravel. A public divorce in 2017 ended his nearly 20-year marriage, and soon after, allegations of sexual misconduct flooded the headlines. Over 30 women accused him of inappropriate behavior. In 2022, Gooding pleaded guilty to one charge of forcible touching and agreed to court-ordered counseling as part of a plea deal that helped him avoid jail time. Today, he lives in the shadow of both acclaim and controversy. While some former fans distanced themselves, others hoped for his redemption. As of 2025, he's reportedly working on rebuilding his reputation and focusing on independent film and theater. With an estimated net worth of $12 million, Cuba Gooding Jr. is a man still reckoning with his legacy on and off the screen. Ice Cube's fiery, unforgettable performance as Doughboy in Boys in the Hood felt less like acting and more like testimony. He brought real-life trauma, rage, and vulnerability to the screen, translating his NWA defiance into cinematic brilliance. But Cube wasn't content to be just a rapper or an actor, became a mogul. From Friday to Barbershop, Are We There Yet, and Straight Outta Compton, Ice Cube built a cultural empire on his own terms. Always outspoken, often controversial, he never shied away from politics or social commentary, whether calling out police brutality or challenging industry gatekeepers. Off-screen, his life is remarkably stable. He's been married to Kimberly Woodruff since 1992, and the couple has 4 children, including rapper, actor O'Shea Jackson Jr., who played Cube in Straight Outta Compton. As of 2025, Ice Cube boasts a net worth of $160 million and remains one of the most influential black creatives in Hollywood, an icon of defiance, evolution, and business acumen. Lawrence Fishburne's role as Furious Styles wasn't just powerful, it was revolutionary. As the wise, disciplined father trying to shield his son from the streets, he delivered the kind of strong black father figure rarely seen in cinema at the time. His monologues about gentrification and black self-respect became cultural touchstones. Off-screen, Fishburne cultivated a reputation as a cerebral, thoughtful actor. He starred in the Matrix trilogy, Othello, Hannibal, and John Wick, earning acclaim for his versatility. But his personal life hasn't been without turbulence. 2 divorces, including one from actress Gina Torisand, the pressures of celebrity, took a quiet toll. Still, Fishburne never fell into scandal or overexposure. Instead, he's continued working steadily, letting his talents speak. In 2025, he's attached to projects like The Amateur and a Broadway revival. With a net worth of $30 million and a career marked by consistency and gravitas, Lawrence Fishburne is the very definition of dignity in Hollywood. Morris Chestnut's portrayal of Ricky Backerth, promising athlete gunned down in a moment of senseless violence, was a heartbreaking moment that defined Boys and the Hood. That single scene made Ricky a symbol of lost black potential, and it made Chestnut a star. But Morris refused to be boxed into the tragic archetype. He went on to prove his range with roles in the Best Man franchise, Rosewood, The Resident, and Our Kind of People. Though he's often dubbed one of the sexiest men in Hollywood, Chestnut has always valued substance over image. Off-camera, his life is remarkably grounded. Married to his college sweetheart since 1995 and a father of 2, Chestnut avoided the typical pitfalls of fame. He's known for his professionalism, humility, and clean imagery in an industry obsessed with drama. With an estimated net worth of $6 million in 2025, Morris Chestnut continues to inspire both as an actor and as a symbol of black excellence done right. Nia Long made her mark as Brandy, the smart, self-assured girlfriend of Trey Styles. Her performance was elegant and grounded, balancing the film's chaos with clarity. She represented the kind of young black woman rarely seen in early 90s films, confident, intellectual, and deeply human. Over the decades, Nia became a cornerstone of black cinema, starring in Love Jones, Soul Food, The Best Man, and Big Mama's House. But behind her serene presence were moments of deep personal pain. In 2022, Long endured a public heartbreak when her fiancé, NBA coach Ime Udoka, was embroiled in a cheating scandal. The betrayal, amplified by media scrutiny, led to their split after more than a decade together. Despite the emotional toll, Nia emerged with grace, leaning on her son and a deep-rooted sense of self. Today, she continues to act, speak out, and mentor young women in the industry. With a net worth of $7 million and a career built on resilience, intelligence, and timeless beauty, Nia Long remains a beloved figure in Hollywood and a lasting symbol of strength. Though her screen time in Boys and the Hood was brief, Regina King's performance as Shalika hinted at a fire that would one day set Hollywood ablaze. That role marked the beginning of one of the most remarkable trajectories in Black cinematic history. From 227 to Poetic Justice, and later Jerry Maguire, King carved out a niche as a deeply expressive, emotionally honest actress. But it was her stunning performance in If Beale Street Could Talk which won her a long-overdue Academy Award in 2019 that affirmed her place among the greats. She didn't stop there. Regina went behind the camera, directing One Night in Miami and multiple episodes of prestige television, proving herself a formidable creative force. But behind the glittering accolades lay unimaginable sorrow. In January 2022, her only child, Ian Alexander Jr., died by suicide. The devastating loss shook her to her core. King retreated from the public eye, taking time to grieve in silence. Yet, from that heartbreak, she emerged with even more depth. She returned with Shirley, a biopic of Shirley Chisholm that allowed her to channel her pain into purpose. Her ability to carry sorrow with grace and still create meaningful art has made her not just a star, but a symbol of resilience. As of 2025, Regina King is 54 and continues to blaze trails. With a net worth of $12 million, she lives not just in wealth, but in respect earned, unshaken, and everlasting. In Boys and the Hood, Angela Bassett gave us Reva Devereaux, the no-nonsense, fiercely loving mother who sends her son, Trey, to live with his father. It was a small but unforgettable role, and Bassett filled it with the kind of strength and subtle emotion that would become her signature. A graduate of Yale's School of Drama, Bassett took the long road to stardom, but her breakout as Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do with It made her an icon overnight. She received an Oscar nomination for that performance, and while she didn't win, she claimed a permanent seat in the pantheon of great actresses. For decades, she has defied age, genre, and expectation. From Waiting to Exhale to How Stella Got Her Groove Back, from American Horror Story to Black Panther, Angela Bassett has remained a force-powerful, graceful, and unshakably elegant. Despite never winning an Oscar as of 2025, she is universally regarded as one of the greatest living actresses. Off-screen, her nearly 30-year marriage to actor Courtney B. Vance is one of Hollywood's most enduring love stories. Together, they've raised twins and used their platform to support education and mental health awareness in the Black community. Now 67, Angela Bassett shows no signs of slowing down. With an estimated net worth of $25 million, she continues to mentor young actors, lend her voice to activism, and star in acclaimed projects. Angela isn't just a performer, he's a blueprint. A legend. A life lived with purpose. At just 23 years old, John Singleton became a cinematic revolutionary. With Boys in the Hood, he shattered barriers, becoming the youngest and first Black filmmaker ever nominated for Best Director at the Academy Awards. But more than accolades, his film gave raw, human voice to the struggles of young Black men in South Central Los Angeles. It wasn't just a movie, it was a wake-up call. Singleton's rise seemed meteoric, but his private world was often stormy. Behind the scenes, he endured a short-lived marriage, painful custody battles over his children, and frequent legal entanglements that drained his energy. A traumatic car accident in the early 2000s left both emotional and physical wounds. In later years, the fast pace of his industry, caught up with him hypertension, became a silent, ticking threat. After a trip to Costa Rica in 2019, Singleton suffered a massive stroke upon his return. He was placed on life support in Los Angeles and passed away days later. His death sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the Black creative community. His legacy remains indelible. Poetic Justice, Higher Learning, Shaft, Baby Boy, Snowfall, and Too Fast, Too Furious all bear his signature passion for authenticity. At the time of his death, Singleton's estimated net worth of $35 million reflected both his commercial success and decades of bold, unapologetic storytelling. He changed the game and made sure the world saw the beauty and tragedy of the hood through an honest lens. In Boys and the Hood, Lloyd Avery II played the cold, heartless gangster who pulled the trigger on Ricky, a scene that devastated audiences and became symbolic of senseless inner-city violence. Tragically, life would imitate art in the darkest way imaginable. Though Avery found early fame with roles in Poetic Justice and Lockdown, he struggled to find direction once the spotlight faded. Disillusioned and disconnected from Hollywood, he became entangled in the real-life gang culture that his breakout film had tried to expose. In 1999, Avery was arrested for the brutal murders of two innocent people, committed in broad daylight with no remorse. Convicted and sentenced to life without parole, Avery later experienced what some described as a spiritual transformation. Behind bars, he embraced Christianity and began preaching to fellow inmates. But his search for redemption ended in horror. In 2005, Avery was murdered by his cellmate, a mentally unstable man with a history of violence. His body remained undiscovered in the shared cell at Pelican Bay State Prison for nearly 2 days. Once a rising star, Avery died alone, disgraced and spiritually adrift. His net worth had dwindled to under $500,000. His life remains one of the most tragic Hollywood cautionary tales about lost potential and the cost of losing your way. As the soft-spoken Dookie, always seen with a pacifier in his mouth, Dedrick Gobert brought a haunting innocence to Boys in the Hood. He represented a generation of young men caught in the crossfire cool on the surface, scared underneath. Off-screen, Gobert was a rising talent. He appeared in Poetic Justice and Higher Learning, both directed by John Singleton, and seemed poised for a lasting career. But life outside the studio proved far more dangerous than any movie set. In November 1994, Gobert attended a late-night illegal street race in Mira Loma, California. A heated altercation turned violent, and Gobert was shot and killed just days before his 23rd birthday. A close friend was also wounded, and his death sent ripples through the Singleton film family. His net worth at the time was estimated at just $100,000, barely enough to reflect his promise. He was buried in Houston, Texas, remembered more for the sadness of his end than the potential of his beginning. Jesse Lawrence Ferguson's chilling portrayal of Officer Coffin, the self-hating black cop who menaces the very community he's supposed to protect, was one of the most emotionally jarring scenes in Boys and the Hood. His sneer and venomous monologue left audiences shaken, revealing the psychological impact of internalized racism. Ferguson had a long, steady career filled with supporting roles on stage and screen. He was never a household name, but those who knew his work recognized his depth and professionalism. He devoted much of his life to his only son and kept a low profile throughout his later years. In April 2019, eerily just days before John Singleton's passing, Ferguson was found dead in his Palmdale, California home. The television was still on. No foul play was suspected, and though the official cause of death was never confirmed, it was believed to be a heart attack. Ferguson's passing marked the quiet end of a quietly powerful career. He left behind an estimated $1 million, a modest but dignified legacy. Lexi Bigham brought humor and tenderness to Boys in the Hood as Mad Dog, a friend who balanced toughness with charm. His screen presence was warm and magnetic, and it became clear that he was on the verge of a breakout career. After his role in Singleton's landmark film, Bigham appeared in Dave, Say, Seven and several television shows. He was beginning to get noticed, finally carving a path that many young black actors struggled to find in the mid-90s, but fate had other plans. In December 1995, just as he wrapped production on The Learners, Bigham was involved in a fatal car crash in Los Angeles. He was only 27. His sudden death left his family, friends, and fans stunned. At the time, his net worth was modest around $200,000, but the real loss was the future that would never be. He had barely scratched the surface of what he could have become. Thanks a lot for your lovely comment. Which actor was your favorite? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Keanu Reeves is a rare gem in Hollywood, a superstar who somehow avoids scandal, but even he wasn't immune to tabloid rumor mills. In the 1990s, a story broke that Reeves had secretly married openly gay media mogul David Geffen. The story was entirely false, but its persistence said more about the public's obsession with Reeves than about any truth. Keanu chose Silencinot out of fear, but because that's always been his way. He doesn't flaunt relationships, rarely discusses romance in interviews, and lives with almost monk-like serenity. Rather than deny, he lets people think what they will. And perhaps that's part of his appeal. Keanu doesn't need to prove anything. His compassion, humility, and quiet presence speak louder than any headline ever could. Queen Latifah is the definition of a multi-hyphenotherapist, actress, producer, and undeniable cultural force. Throughout her decades-long career, speculation about her sexuality has trailed her, especially as she was frequently seen vacationing and attending events with the same woman. Yet Latifah never addressed it directly. "I don't feel the need to share my personal life with the world," she famously said, a boundary she's fiercely maintained. Still, in recent years, she's offered subtle affirmations. While accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award at the BET Awards, she closed with a quiet but powerful happy pride, nodding to her longtime partner and their shared life. It was a rare public acknowledgement, but one that reaffirmed her deep resonance with the LGBTQ+ community, whether or not she ever uses a label. Jake Gyllenhaal's breakout performance in Brokeback Mountain was a turning point in cinema and in his public life. The raw intimacy of his role as Jack Twist sparked widespread speculation. Was this simply acting, or did it hint at something personal? Over the years, Jake has dated high-profile women, but rumors have lingered fueled by his artistic choices, private nature, and ease in rejecting rigid masculinity. Gyllenhaal has never directly commented on the rumors. Instead, he's chosen to focus on supporting LGBTQ+ rights, telling the press, "You love who you love," and moving on. That ambiguity has left space for endless fan theories, but also admiration for a man who refuses to let gossip define his legacy. For years, Jodie Foster was the most famously closeted woman in Hollywood. Her brilliance as an actress and director was never in question, but her personal life was a subject of endless speculation. Paparazzi followed her, journalists poked and prodded, but Foster refused to be baited. In 2013, she addressed the elephant in the room at the Golden Globes. While accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award, she thanked her former partner Sidney Bernard in a heartfelt speech that was equal parts coming out and declaration of freedom. It wasn't a dramatic revelation, it was quiet, sincere, and entirely on her terms. Foster had lived openly in her own circle for decades, but that moment gave closure to years of speculation and cemented her as a trailblazer in dignity and self-protection. From teenage heartthrob to Hollywood leading man, Zac Efron has lived under the microscope since High School Musical. His polished looks, love of fashion, and affectionate friendships with other men have long made him the subject of online speculation. Viral photos showing him hugging male friends have often been twisted into proof of a secret life, but Efron has met the rumors with grace and humor. "I'm comfortable with who I am," he said in interviews, sometimes flipping the conversation into critiques of toxic masculinity. Rather than get defensive, Efron uses the curiosity around his image to promote self-confidence, gender fluidity, and respect. His silence, in this case, doesn't hide shy might, radiates assurance. Leonardo DiCaprio has been linked to countless models over the years, so many in fact, that it's become a pop culture punchline. But despite his long list of glamorous girlfriends, he's never been married, never had children, and rarely discusses love publicly. His close-knit group of male friends, penchant for private vacations, and carefully managed public image have kept the rumor mill turning. DiCaprio never engages with the gossip, instead focusing on environmental activism and his craft. The mystery only deepens. Some say he's just fiercely private, others wonder if there's more to the story. But DiCaprio seems content letting the world wonder while he continues to win awards and live life entirely on his own terms. When Alicia Keys stormed the charts with Fallen, she was instantly celebrated for her authenticity and unique style. With her tomboy fashion, braids, and commanding stage presence, she stood apart from the hyper-feminine pop stars of the early 2000s. Naturally, speculation followed. Was her refusal to play into feminine stereotypes a hint about her sexuality? Keys has never labeled herself. She's married to Swizz Beatz and raising a family, but that has some questioning. What sets her apart is her openness to identity exploration without ever compromising her boundaries. She's spoken frequently about inner strength, soul over style, and embracing the spectrum of expression. To Alicia, identity isn't about definition, it's about freedom. Taylor Lautner went from child actor to global sensation thanks to Twilight, became intense public. When he wasn't dating anyone publicly for a while, and photos surfaced of him hanging with male friends, the internet took notice. The rumors, though unfounded, spread quickly, especially since Lautner has always been somewhat reserved in interviews and eschews the spotlight. He's dated women, eventually marrying Taylor Dome in 2022, but his quiet personal life keeps people guessing. Lautner hasn't lashed out or tried to shut down speculation. Instead, his focus remains on mental health, family, and his post-Twilight reinvention. For many, his calm response to the curiosity has only made him more admirable. David Beckham is the epitome of modern masculinity, a world-class footballer, fashion icon, and devoted family man married to pop royalty Victoria Beckham. Still, despite his seemingly perfect life, whispers about his sexuality have followed him for years. Much of the speculation stemmed not from scandal, but from his unabashed embrace of style Satan sarongs, manicured brows, bold fashion statements, and his openness about loving skincare and grooming. In the macho world of football, Beckham's gentle confidence stood out. Public displays of affection toward male teammates, playful interactions, and his metrosexual vibe fueled persistent rumors in the early 2000s. But Beckham never wavered. He's laughed off the talk with charm, often flipping stereotypes on their head. "What's wrong with taking care of yourself?" he said in interviews. Rather than push back with defensiveness, Beckham helped redefine masculinity, showing that strength and softness can and should coexist. Vin Diesel may be the face of fast cars and muscle-bound action, but when it comes to his personal life, he drives in stealth mode. Despite his fame, Diesel has remained intensely private, rarely seen in public with romantic partners, and seldom sharing details about his home life. That intense privacy became fertile ground for gay rumors, especially during his rise in the early 2000s. He famously deflected questions about his dating life by saying he preferred to meet women in Europe, where celebrities aren't hunted like game. Over time, fans and tabloids speculated that his silence was hiding something. But Diesel never cracked under pressure. He didn't address the rumors, and perhaps more importantly, he didn't feed them either. He simply continued making blockbuster films, raising his children quietly, and letting his on-screen persona do the talking. Whether gay or straight, Vin Diesel's mystery remains part of his allure. Once trapped in the relentless spotlight of the Twilight saga and her relationship with Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart's sexuality was a frequent topic of tabloid curiosity even before she was ready to speak about it. With her androgynous aesthetic and disdain for traditional Hollywood glamour, the rumors began early and never stopped. But After her high-profile breakup with Pattinson, Kristen began quietly and then proudly dating women. Over the years, she's been linked to several, including French singer Soko, model Stella Maxwell, and her current fiancé, screenwriter Dylan Meyer. Kristen eventually opened up about her bisexuality in interviews, saying she was tired of hiding and wanted to own her narrative. Today, she's become one of the most visible queer women in entertainment, a beacon of unapologetic authenticity and artistic freedom. The rumors may have predicted the truth, but it was always her story to tell, and she told it when she was ready. Shawn Mendes is a platinum-selling artist with a voice that melts hearts but that hasn't shielded him from intrusive rumors about his sexuality. From the earliest days of his fame, social media users scrutinized his voice, mannerisms, fashion sense, and friendships, often suggesting he was secretly gay. The speculation wasn't lighthearted. It became so invasive that Mendes addressed it multiple times. "It made me feel really frustrated," he once admitted in an interview. "I thought, why can't you just let me be who I am?" While Mendes has consistently identified as straight, the way he's handled the rumors has been quietly revolutionary. Instead of lashing out, he's used his platform to advocate for kindness, mental health, and understanding, reminding fans that questioning someone's sexuality publicly can be damaging and unfair. Whether he's singing about heartbreak or hope, Mendes brings a sensitivity that transcends labels and proves that masculinity has many forms. Tom Cruise has long held the title of Hollywood's ultimate action hero, scaling skyscrapers, flying fighter jets, and saving the world on screen. But off-screen, his life has been cloaked in both fascination and controversy. Despite being married to high-profile actresses like Nicole Kidman and Katie Holmes, rumors about Cruise's sexuality have persisted for decades. The 1990s and early 2000s were a particular hotbed, with tabloid headlines suggesting secret relationships with men and even questioning the authenticity of his marriages. Cruise, fiercely protective of his image, responded with legal force filing and winning multiple defamation lawsuits to push back against false stories. His deep entanglement with Scientology, known for its aggressive defense tactics and strict control of members' narratives, only fueled more questions. Since his divorce from Holmes in 2012, Cruise has remained highly private, rarely seen dating, and never directly addressing the speculation. The silence has only intensified the mystique surrounding one of Hollywood's most enigmatic leading men. From Disco King in Saturday Night Fever to a hitman in Pulp Fiction, John Travolta's career has been nothing short of iconic, yet the real drama has often played out in his private life. Over the years, lawsuits from male massage therapists alleging sexual misconduct, along with paparazzi photos of Travolta embracing or kissing men, have sparked persistent rumors. A devout Scientologist and family man, Travolta remained married to actress Kelly Preston for nearly 30 years until her death in 2020. He never publicly addressed the accusations head-on, choosing instead to grieve privately and maintain focus on his family. His reluctance to discuss his personal life only amplified public curiosity. To some, Travolta represents the tension between old-school Hollywood discretion and the modern push for transparency.